Hello and welcome to the Fourth Estate, your number one current affairs program on television where we take a review and in-depth analysis on issues around the nation from the media perspective. My name is Folashade Ogurinde, and today we'll be taking a review of the following issues: Amosu hands over ammunition and armored vehicles to Ogun State Police Command. Federal government headsman settlement plan rejected by Southeast governors, as well as Benue, Taraba and Ondo State government. Vice President's claim of being misunderstood in his description of the state of kidnapping in Nigeria. And finally, the roles of socio-cultural or political groups such as Afenifere, Odua People's Congress and Change Ohanese in promoting cohesion. All this and more after this break. Welcome back to the Fourth Estate, your number one current affairs program on television. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Like I promised earlier, we have lots of interesting topics to discuss today, but I'm joined by esteemed guests in the program today. I'm with Mr. Muka Pokuola, is a veteran journalist. How are you? Good morning.
Yeah, fine, Folashade. It's been a rainy day. I think it's all good for our weather.
All right, and I'm also joined by Mr. Osa Director, is a journalist and lawyer. How are you?
I'm okay, it's fantastic, always been here. It's nice to be back again.
All right, without wasting much time, let's move on to the business of the day. The first issue is this: Amosu hands over ammunition and armored vehicles to Ogun State Police Command. You know, that story broke out on Monday this week, and lots of people had comments about the issue. And the first question people asked was is the state government empowered, or is the state government permitted to procure arms and ammunition? And when the reports came out, the story was that I'm also called the commissioner of Ogun State Command, the police commissioner of Ogun State Command, Mr. Bashar Makama, to come for the official handover of some arms and ammunition. But after that story, there were back and forth about the issue, that Amosu had express permission from the presidency to import those arms and ammunition in 2012 under President Goodluck Jonathan. So I would refer my question to you, Mr. Osa Director. What are your thoughts on this? Is this something, there are lots of back and forth about it. What are your thoughts on this issue?
Well, it is surprising that former Governor Amosu is insisting that he did the right thing by keeping those arms and ammunition in the government house. To answer your first question, yes, an individual can procure arms depending on the category of arms and with the express permission of the Commander-in-Chief, as they are stipulated in Firearms Act, which regulates the procurement of arms. So if a state feels that it is under some kind of security threat and seeks the permission of the federal government, it can get some arms and ammunition through a licensed and authorized arms dealer, not direct procurement, But the challenge we face with the Amosu unfolding arms and ammunition saga is that, one, he said he procured those arms with the authorization of Goodluck Jonathan. Goodluck Jonathan or his aides has not spoken to confirm or deny that. He said he stored those arms and ammunition in government house, which is constitutionally wrong, statutorily wrong, under our laws it is wrong, for him to procure those arms and store in government house, because under the Firearms Act, there are two places you can store arms: a licensed arms dealer armory approved and a public armory, like you have in Keja Cantonment and all those kind of places. When did the Ogun State Government House become an armory for storage of arms and ammunition? And to even imagine that those arms and ammunition have been in the Ogun State Government House since 2012.
Yeah.
You know, so one wonder, what was he using the arms for? He also said, that he was the one authorizing and releasing those arms and ammunition to the police as and when he so desired.
And when he asked why he procured those arms and ammunition, he said as at 2012 there was high rate of insecurity, kidnapping, and you know, whatnot in Ogun State, and he felt that procurement of those arms and ammunition would serve as you know, protection for the state. But one of the back and forths, you know, when the story broke out this week is that according to reports by a newspaper, an online newspaper, it was said that Amosun handed over 1,000 AK-47 and over 1 million.
They said 4 million.
4 million.
Yes, over 4 million.
Bullets.
Yes, ammunitions and bullets.
Yeah.
But he said that there were no AK-47 in it. But you know, a security expert would feel that whether it is AK-47 or not, the fact is, you know, that you know, he had this ammunition. But I would direct this question to Mr. Muka Popola with regards to you know, when the story broke out this week, you know, most security experts, you know, raised their eyebrows to the fact that you need a certificate.
That's end user certificate.
Exactly, end user certificate to, you know, that empowers you to import ammunitions. And the reports as at yesterday said that Amosu did not have, you know, those certificates. However, the spokesman for the presidency said yesterday that Amosun is cleared, that is good to go. And even this morning, there were reports, you know, that also confirming from the presidency that even the Ogun State Commissioner of Police cleared Amosun. So you know, there are back and forths to this. So what are your thoughts?
You see, the story from the government side, I don't have facts to their to their internal workings. You know, what they have, it's what they tell us is what we will take, Abi. But there is one thing that is curious, you know, about the old story. Amosu made a public presentation where he invited the media, and I'm sure it was not the only online paper that published the story that was invited. So he invited. It was a public presentation.
Yeah, so
that online media that published the story waited for 5 days. When they were ready to publish the story, they tried to get Amosun. Amosun did not respond. They got in touch with the man who eventually, you know, wrote, you know, the clarification.
Let me quickly take you know, you just mentioned that statement.
Yes.
Let me quickly read it out. I'm also in a statement by his media aide, Mr.
Rotimi
Dodaye, denied handing over alleged large arms and ammunition, stating that all its arms importation were authorized by the presidency under former President Goodluck Jonathan. Although he acknowledged that upon the winding down of his government, he handed over some ammunition and armored vehicles to the Ogun State Police Command, he denied the guns were involved in the exercise.
That's exactly, those are the issues. One, could it be that when they were making the public presentation, the journalist, the particular journalist that published the story, could not identify a gun as different from a bullet?
Yes.
And then if you didn't have bullets, they're guns, and you amassed 4 million bullets and kept them since 2012 for about 8 years that you were in government, you kept them doing what? And then they tried to clarify this thing with the government and waited for 5 days before they published the story. No response. It was 2 days after. They published it on the 24th, and then they now responded to it on the 26th. They were aware that the story was to be broken. So, but we are looking at the event. Whatever stories they are telling from their own corners, we don't have access to the fact of the matter. But at least our own is to piece together, you know, the missing links. If Amosun had even the license to import arms, does he also have the armory? He doesn't have an armory.
Because the poster here would be, you know, he was handing over to a new government, and you know, he called a press conference to hand them over. Now the question now is it even lawful for a state government to keep arms and ammunition in the government house?
That is exactly what we are saying.
Apart from that, you now have, you know, sometimes you have this copycat issues, or even if you check the intelligence, you know, security intelligence. What you know, I'm also brought his out openly. The question now is, do we not even have other state governors or even other institutions who have their own
need to surrender?
Now, then the issue now is people who have the sneaky feeling that it is politicians that are procuring arms, you know, for people who are not licensed to have arms. Now might be having something, you know, to confirm their fears. Because you, even if you as governor, using the instrumentality of the state to import arms and ammunition, do you also have that authority to keep it in the state house? Do what? And you waited until the time you and your own political caucus were losing control. The reason, one thing, you know, that will reason out of it, that will bring out of it, is that if, for instance, Amosu's candidate had won the governorship, he probably wouldn't have surrendered.
That perhaps you know, be transferred to another.
No, it will just transfer them to. So then you now ask yourself. Sometimes you ask, like, okay, thank God these elections went the way it went. Maybe some people were actually preparing for war in this country.
In your own opinion?
No. I mean, you begin to hazard a guess that why would somebody, you know, you brought in arms for like 6, 7, 8 years and you kept them in your own custody. You did it. The police, I am sure, I don't know whether, if we go into record, probably before now he had done some things for the police. So all the things that he used to support the police in the state, they did not need those gun or ammunition or APC until he was leaving.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mukakupola, for that detailed analysis. Well, it's a developing story, and every day we see new aspects.
No, he has a lot of questions to answer.
Okay, now let's move on to the second issue of the day. Federal government headsman settlement plan rejected by Southeast governors as well as Benue, Taraba and Ondo state government with regards to the Ruga settlement plan by the federal government. And you know, this state government, the state governors of the Southeast have come out to say that they do not want the Ruga settlement in their state. They were joined by Benue, Taraba and Ondo state governments. Now, do you think this is like an opposition to you know, the issue of you know, headsmen and farmers roaming or clash? Do you think this will be like an opposition to, you know, the plan of the federal government in order to finally end, you know, the clash between farmers and headsmen? Or do you think, you know, it's a form of you know, integrating the farmers or the Fulani headsmen? Because in some quarters they feel that it's an agenda of the federal of Buhari to Islamize Nigeria or Fulanize Nigeria. So okay. I would pass on that question to Mr.
Director.
Well, how are you? Short and the fundamental question I've always been asking: is cattle rearing not a private business enterprise? Is it a private enterprise? What is government business in trying to be meddlesome about? What is their interest in trying to financially mobilize, support, and provide for cattle?
And mind you, there will be nothing less than 6 settlements in each state.
So I think for those who are skeptical or suspicious or some undertones of subterfuges behind the actions of the government. They are genuine in their fears. Because, okay, I'm a journalist. Why can't government call me to give me a land or a house so that I set up a newspaper or buy me a printing machine? Why are you after catorieras or herdsmen?
Or why don't we have Nollywood? You know, the way we have
Nollywood. Even Nollywood have been crying out since they not been able to intervene and structure the industry. But you are so concerned about the catorieras. So it's very, very offensive. And you are not talking about Ruga settlement. It's just a change in name. That is just cattle colony.
And according to the report by the federal government, this settlement would be like, a proper settlement with regards to the fact that they would have a hospital, they will have schools. They will stop the nomadic way of moving from one point to the other. It would be so.
Why can't individuals do cattle ranching? That is, I mean, we must move forward. We cannot begin to take one step forward, 2 steps backward, or begin to live in the past when others have moved ahead of us. Civilized ones that we are trying to copy, embark on cattle ranching. Do you need to carry cows from a distance of about 1,000 kilometers from Kano to Lagos?
Some would argue that the north has the largest landmass.
Yes.
And, of course, in agriculture, part of the reasons why they moved to the south is because of, the topography. But, most people will feel that, this Fulani herdsmen have, it's been reported, that, they're sacking an entire village, causing mayhem and everything. And, the federal government has not really come out to say how they would, tackle this fear, but majorly like kind of imposing the idea of the Ruga settlement on, these states, because of course the report says they will start with 12 states.
Exactly. Some 12 states have subscribed to the idea, but you see, the issue is this: the motive of the federal government is suspect. There is no doubt about it. This business that they are talking about is a private business. It is not the business. Indeed, if we talk about cattle ranching or whatever, they are even supposed to be paying for the service.
Not free of charge.
It should not be free.
And an economic expert once said that, what is the of course each segment of the economy has something to contribute. But how valuable is the economic impact of cattle rearing to the Nigerian economy? Because some would argue that those in the Niger Delta who have issues with pollution from crude oil and everything, they are more or less abandoned there. Nothing really has been done. So why the special attention given to farmers?
The thing is, I'm not saying to me, I will not subscribe to the idea of saying developing cattle rearing will not impact on the economy. No, we used to have cocoa. Cocoa was a very big business in Nigeria that supported our economy. So I still also believe that cattle rearing, on a very large scale, can still support the economy. We can export and all that. But what we are saying is that those that are engaged in that business or any business at all is a private venture. So it is not the business of government to say, by force, by fire, this is what must happen. And that is what we are seeing now.
But maybe he's also thinking, if he says he doesn't want Nigeria to be seen as unsafe, the international community will also read that his comment. That, he came there to try to deceive them that Nigeria is really unsafe, but he was trying to play it down. So maybe that's why the guy is just trying to run away from further escalating the debate on what he said or what he didn't say. But I felt that there are ways you could just say, well, if you say there's kidnapping, every nation has security challenges and they are being tackled and we're on top of the game. It's simple, rather than trying to classify massive or not massive.
Because the kidnapping that happened around Akure.
No, several cases.
The latest now is the driver and the passengers who were kidnapped around Akure, Ikere Road. Now, it was reported this morning that the kidnappers are demanding for 5 million naira. And the NURTW has, had meetings, indoor meetings with the Ondo State governor. Now, imagine if this man, someone whispers to him wherever he is now, or those who are in captivity now, that the vice president said that kidnapping is not as bad as it is, and that it is being exaggerated. I can't really imagine the state of his mind. And we also had several reports of...
It will be highly traumatic for them.
Exactly.
It will be highly traumatic. You see, just as you said, the vice president was merely trying to be patriotic.
Yeah.
But that does not remove the fact that the reality on ground and the mistake. A lot of people have been trying to justify it by saying, yes, one housewife organized his own kidnap, one pastor organized. Those little issues, we are journalists. The odd news makes attracts the biggest interest. Those little ones are not the ones that they are reading overseas. By now, they will have known that the son of the former Minister of Health was kidnapped and released. So it's not the pastor's wife or the that organized
those pastors and the rest did those things because they know that kidnapping is a fact.
Yes.
That is why they decided to do it.
Yes.
If people were not being kidnapped, no one would say it's
so that means it is really bad.
Yeah. So
there's no exaggeration to it.
No, it is the reality of our situation.
Yes.
All right, let's move on now to the final issue of the day, which is the roles of social, cultural, or political groups such as Afenifere, Oodua People's Congress, and Ohanaeze in promoting social cohesion, political cohesion, and economic cohesion in Nigeria. We've had, several reports of, this social or cultural pressure groups have always been there, to serve the interest of each geopolitical zone and things like that. But what would you say? I'll direct that question to Mr. Director. What would you say is the role of Afenifere and Ohanaeze and the Oodua People's Congress in ensuring that let's just say summarily Nigeria is a better place?
Yeah, ideally you need to see the constitution of those organizations to be able to know their objectives and their aims. But most times when you read that, they will say we are a pan-socio-cultural organization. Okay. But oftentimes you also see them meddling in politics because you cannot really separate these things, we are a product of culture. So by that implication, most of us should naturally defer to this socio-cultural organization. But they should be managed in such a way that they are not used to serve political purposes and objectives. And when they have strong leadership, especially like Afenifere then, collaborating.
Sorry to interrupt you. Afenifere made a statement about the security issue is Southwest. They had this security meeting amongst
which of the Afenifere are you referring to?
Do we have more than one?
That's where the point is coming,
So there is the Afenifere that is part of the political structure of the APC. Yeah. There is the Afenifere that is anti-APC.
Yes.
So we have different factions.
Yeah, I mean the one that is part of the political structure of APC. Those ones met with Mr. President, 2 days ago or so. The one that is anti, they have always been opposed to Buhari. So in the case of Afenifere, we can even isolate them. But Ohanaeze, I'm not aware of anything.
Ohanaeze had crisis prior to the election when President of the organization, Onyewundo, endorsed Atiku Abubakar. Others came and the Secretary General and the rest said no. They didn't endorse any candidate, and they are not endorsing any candidate. And later, those ones gravitated towards President Muhammadu Buhari. So I don't know if they have also been able to resolve that factionalization within Ohanaeze. So perhaps it's only Arewa Forum that is a bit intact now, but they also have some radical elements, like people like Dr. Junaidu Mohammed, who does not want to be seen as being part of the establishment supporting Buhari, whether he's doing what is right or wrong as perceived or interpreted by them.
Okay.
So you always find out that these socio-cultural organizations have been politicized, and you can't blame them. We are political animals, so we have to be active and take interest in what happens around us. But it's just that it should be managed in such a way that their primary objective, they shouldn't deviate from it.
All right, Mr. Muka, any thoughts to that?
Well, I mean, I agree in total with what he has said. They have a role to play, but they should, define their roles properly. If you are representing an interest, do not meddle in the global politics, because it will destroy your interest, and that is exactly what has happened.
But
That's why they are having
But I would
factionalization.
feel that there is really no way you can be effective as a social political or social cultural group without meddling into politics in one way or the other. Because Nigeria is a very political.
They are free to call attention.
Yes.
They are free to call attention to, but in some cases you find them even endorsing candidates and all that, and that
because
is
I'm
a
making
problem.
reference to the fact that with regards to the insecurity issue, Afenifere said it was reported, I think last week or this week, that the Southwest is capable of protecting themselves in terms of security. And we had the Oduas People's Congress, that's the OPC, and we know that in terms of security and issues like that. So I would feel that you can't really separate politics from a social
when
cultural
Afenifere talks about security issues like that, for instance, I was one person I was particularly very excited that at least the intelligentials in Yoruba land are beginning to wake up to their responsibility of ensuring that things are done properly. Because whether you want to accept it or not, sometimes they have a way of showing the roadmap for other sections of the country to want to take a cue from. And you could see now that Ohanaeze is emboldened, and other social-cultural institutions are emboldened, because when they are trying to tell government that if you fail the responsibility to secure the lives and properties of our people, we will do it ourselves. And then that becomes self-help, and government will not want to do that. So they are making a political statement in the cultural context of securing their own people, that please live up to your responsibility of being fair, principled, and accurate in the protection of the lives and property of our people. If you don't, we have the capacity
to protect ourselves.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for that detailed analysis of that issue. Well, many thanks to you watching for coming on the show today. Many thanks for being with us today. But that's all we can take on the program today. Many thanks, Mr. Osa, Director, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you, Mr. Muka Kukola, for honoring our invitation.
Thank you, Sade. It's always a pleasure.
All right, that's all we can take today. I'm your host, Fola Shade Ogunrinde. See you again next time. Bye.